Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents How to Be a Badass Vigilante 2 by Michael Anderle, narrated by Dara Rosenberg. Chapter 1. A glossy black Volkswagen Fidian pulled up out front. It moved slowly and carefully, but the driver was not making any effort to conceal himself or his passenger. He was always professional, eyes scanning the surroundings for anything unexpected, but so far, everything was going to plan. Their route to the shipping facility had been scouted in advance, and their point of arrival was carefully watched. 4 guards armed with compact shotguns, submachine guns, and shot-barreled rifles stood out front. Other men with concealed pistols had been arranged along the streets on the way there, providing real-time updates on sudden changes in the security situation. And in the abandoned watchtower nearby, a sniper with a high-powered .308 rifle and a state-of-the-art scope watched and waited. It was a warm, partly cloudy day in early summer, and aside from the armed guards, everything looked typical at the compound. The place had a long history of carrying out its business both inside and outside the law, generally without much oversight. Recently, ownership had changed hands. The staff was skittish. The Fidian finally parked about 12 feet from the front doors, at which point the 2 closest guards came out to pin the vehicle in and perform a quick inspection, ensuring that all was in order. They nodded, then stepped back. The man who climbed out of the back seat was well-dressed and well-groomed, but otherwise unremarkable. About 5'11", medium build. Age, somewhere between mid-30s and early 40s. Clear olive-hued skin. Clean-shaven. Nothing about his face was distinctive or memorable. He was neither ugly nor handsome. His black hair was perhaps his most striking feature. It was parted on the side and relatively short, but appeared to have been cut with the utmost care and precision, then combed lovingly into place with the aid of product, giving him an air of fastidious perfection. It was his immaculate hair that had lent him the nickname by which he was known in Los Angeles, El Peluquero, the barber. As the man stood beside the car, smoothing his plain charcoal-colored dress shirt and black slacks, the front doors of the facility's main building opened, and out stepped Neron, his second in command. "Hola, jefe." Neron opened, grinning. "You're just in time, my friend." Out of habit, he glanced around to ensure that nothing was amiss, and noted the comforting presence of his Sig Sauer P320 compact in its holster at the small of his back. Neron was a clear contrast from his superior. Though he was slightly taller and more muscular, he often stooped or slouched when standing or walking, and he shaved his head. He also wore gold jewelry and alternated between casual dress and fancy suits, depending on the occasion. Today he wore his best suit, just to be safe. El Peluquero's shirt and pants were of fine quality, but they were not flashy or obviously made by the types of premium brands that some people might want to show off. He wore no jewelry, not even a watch. His sole concession to extravagance was a tattoo of an ornate Catholic cross on his neck, shoulder, and upper chest. The top portion of it could be seen on the right side of his throat, emerging from under his collar. El Peluquero nodded in greeting and wasted no time on pleasantries. "Please give me a full tour of the facility, and tell me what we are dealing with right now. Also about any shipments that are arriving soon." He paused and adjusted the cuffs of his shirt. "And any problems we have encountered." Neron nodded. "Sure thing, sir. Just step right this way." He turned and pulled open the front doors. As they strode in, Neron reflected that, despite having worked for El Peluquero for over 3 years, he still did not know the man's real name or where the hell he was from. Some people called him Pelu behind his back, but to his face, he was only ever referred to by his full nickname, or, of course, as Sir. As for his origins, it was generally accepted that he wasn't from the U.S., though beyond that, opinions differed. His accent was odd. Nobody could place it with any degree of certainty. Most people assumed he was from an obscure region of Mexico or from somewhere farther south, maybe Nicaragua or Colombia. One guy had suggested he was from southern Europe. Neron had his own theory. El Peluquero spoke both Spanish and English with the careful, measured formality of one who was fluent, but not a native speaker. Perhaps this was just how he chose to speak when discussing business, but Nerone wondered if perhaps the man was from Brazil, in which case he would have grown up speaking Portuguese. The main building at the compound was dedicated to packing, unpacking, and otherwise processing shipments before staging them for their next destination. They did some exports to foreign lands, but mostly they imported products to be distributed to America's streets. "Okay," Nerone announced, flourishing his hand across the broad floor. "As you can see, everyone is keeping nice and busy. We got a big shipment there in the middle of the floor. Came in this morning. Want to have a look?" El Peluquero started toward the 4 pallets of shrink-wrapped packages. "Yes, show me." With the aid of the foreman and 3 of the workers, they went through each individual parcel, comparing the contents to the invoices and ensuring that all was well. Nerone checked things off. "Right, 2,000 bottles of prescription opioids. The brand name is clearly visible, too." El Peluquero asked, "Is it in the quantities we requested? The correct number of milligrams per tablet?" The men checked the labels, then allowed their boss to pick 1 bottle at random and open it. Examining the pills, he found them satisfactory and nodded, and the process continued. They went through everything, pound upon pound of cocaine, including cheap crack, more bottles of prescription painkillers, ecstasy, acid, and various other party drugs, amphetamines of various sorts, esoteric drugs from Russia, China, and South America, and, of course, heroin. Of particular interest was the black variety, which was especially popular in Southern California this year. El Peluquero summoned the 2 men who had brought in the black heroin by retrieving it from a coyote at the border. Both were young, shifty-looking types, street thugs who clearly thought they could make it big by working for a major outfit and then expanding at the first opportunity. He snapped his fingers before their faces. "You, this is genuine? And of the required potency. Please demonstrate." "Yeah," said the first one. "Sure it is. Absolutely. Here, look." He pulled out a box cutter and slid open the topmost pack on the load, lifting it for his employer to examine. When he did, another package showed beneath, and its color was slightly off. Both El Peluquero and Nerone noticed. Neither said anything. El Peluquero smoothed the hair behind his left ear. "Yes, this packet is good." Having concluded the inspection, El Peluquero nodded curtly to the workers and overseers and turned on his heel to stride off, his pace brisk but unhurried. Nerone followed him. Once they were far enough away that the ambient noise of the building would cover their voices, El Peluquero turned to his right-hand man and told him in a low voice, "Those 2 who told us the heroin black was fine were lying to us, of course. They acquired only enough quality product for the top layer and filled out the rest of the pallet with poor imitation-grade stuff. They must be killed. Do it today so there is no doubt in the minds of the others as to why it has happened." Nerone was not shocked by the order. He, too, had noticed that the men had been bullshitting them and were stupid enough to think they could get away with it. "Should I make an example of them, sir? Making it nice and messy would make a big impression on the others." He had a knife as well as his gun, and if either of them tried to fight back, the guards would see to it that they failed. With a slow, deliberate motion, El Peluquero shook his head. "No. Beyond doing it where they can see. I need you to focus to be on the jobs to come. Ensure that our workers understand how stupid it is to try to lie to us, but to make it quick. Death is enough in this case." Nerone was disappointed, but he did not complain. El Peluquero could be ruthless when he felt it was necessary. He had ordered the prolonged and hideous torture of 2 men within the last year, but only for the purpose of extracting information. Once he got what he needed, he had them put out of their misery. The boss did not seem to take any sadistic pleasure in such things. He was cool-headed, a real professional. "Yes, sir," Nerone responded. "Now?" El Peluquero raised a hand. "In another minute or 2. I am going up to the balcony. Do it after I am out of sight. I want them to understand that it was my order, but not to see me when it happens. That will help train them to think of what I want, and what I will not tolerate, even when I am not present. Good workers should always fear that I am watching over their shoulders." It made sense, and Nerone agreed. The two men walked to the doorway, leading to an elevator that would take El Peluquero to the 3rd floor. When the door gave its pleasant electronic ding and opened, the boss stepped in, and Nerone walked back the way he had come, his fingers itching for his knife and pistol. In the elevator, El Peluquero did not trouble himself with wondering how things would go. Nerone was competent, and his other men would step in if something went wrong. Nor did he waste thought or mental energy on being angry at the fools who had tried to deceive him. Such people always cropped up, and he had always been able to cut them back down. The elevator ascended, depositing him in a short hallway which, to the left, led to an interior walkway that encircled the main work floor, and in the other direction led out to the balcony. El Peluquero went to the right. The view was spectacular. The balcony was basic, as befit an industrial building like this. The place wasn't a luxury hotel, after all. El Peluquero didn't mind. It calmed him to watch the city from above, glimpsing the Pacific in the distance and smelling its salt, along with the smoggy smell that he had come to associate with his new base of operations. Behind and below him, a gunshot rang out, and one man screamed in pain, while others shouted and cursed in terror. Feet stamped rapidly away, but the second man's attempt at flight was cut short by a thunderous burst of submachine gunfire, along with the boom of a compact tactical shotgun. El Peluquero supposed the second man had been blasted to pieces more or less. The first, having been shot once by Nerone, was likely now having his throat cut to finish him off. The spectacle would make a big impression on the workers, no doubt. For every man stupid enough to cheat him, 5 more were considering it. Displays like these ensured they never took action. He pulled out his phone as a sea breeze rose and threatened to put his hair out of order. He brought up a couple of invoices, as well as an app that allowed him to keep an eye on the shipping manifests. According to the most up-to-date report, another load of black heroin would be arriving tomorrow, so the bogus batch the 2 recently deceased conmen had tried to fob off on him would not cause any serious problems with the flow of product. The communications used vagaries and code. Of course, it was a standard precaution. Still, he knew their correspondence was safe. All the programs his business used were encrypted. Location tracking of the highly illegal but difficult-to-detect variety provided further cover. Finally, his phone had an advanced wipe option that would fry its insides if he were ever in danger of being captured. Footsteps approached, and the elevator dinged open on the ground floor. Nerone was coming up to confirm the obvious. El Peluquero reflected on how quickly his men had resolved the situation. They were well-armed and well-trained, and that, more than anything else, was how he had risen to the upper echelons of drug importers. He had started out as an arms dealer. The money was good, and it allowed him to gradually accumulate extra weaponry. At the same time, he mainly hired professional mercenaries with backgrounds in the military or elite police units. By the time he branched out into the drug trade, he was stronger than most of the competition. Los Angeles would be his. Soon. Behind him, the door opened and Nerone walked up, cleaning his hands with a couple of sanitary wipes. "Done. I think the second guy knew what was coming before I shot the first one, or he wouldn't have bolted. We got him, though." "Yes, I knew you would." El Peluquero finished examining the manifest and put his phone away. Nerone snapped his fingers and blinked. "Oh, something else I just remembered. Motorcycle Man, you heard of him? That fucking wannabe superhero was all over the news, and a lot of the lower-level gangs, especially downtown, were scared shitless of him. Or her. Some were saying it might be a woman. Whatever. Been quiet lately, but whoever that asshole is, he took out some decent-sized outfits. So, might be worth taking seriously as a threat. These days you can't talk about L.A. without mentioning Motorcycle Man." El Peluquero furrowed his brow. "Yes, I had heard the rumors. I doubt this person will be of great concern. I have seen nothing to suggest that he or she can challenge us, and if he is stupid enough to try, he will discover that we are not a mere gang. He is new to the underworld, and has only faced weak opposition. If he attacks us, we will quickly discover his weaknesses and remove him." Nerone shrugged. "If you say so. A lot of the stuff I heard was superstition. Ghost stories. The kind that dumb street-level fucks tell when they don't know what's going on. Exaggerated." "Yes, probably." El Peluquero reached into his other pocket. "Here are the plans for the next 2 days. The night after tomorrow, we will be moving against one of our new rivals. No one very important or intimidating, but I want a smooth, professional operation." He handed a folded slip of paper to his right-hand man. Nerone opened it and read. El Peluquero continued. "Keep it long enough to memorize it and pass it on to your top lieutenants. Then burn it. Inform me of any developments. I will be focused on coordinating our shipments, so we can flood the streets as soon as the competition is thinner." "Sure." Nerone pocketed the slip. He stretched and stared out over the balcony at the vast urban expanse. Below them, the cleanup men were taking away the bagged-up remains of the 2 smart-ass liars. "Nice view from up here, isn't it?" "Yes," his boss agreed. Chapter 2. Kera stared at the potato, which she had levitated about 4 feet into the air in the center of her garage area, making sure any flammable materials were far away. Plus, a fire extinguisher rested by her feet, just to be safe. The converted warehouse that served as her apartment was an unusually good locale for what they were doing, but not an ideal one. She didn't like the idea of accidentally burning down her own home. "Okay," she began, her focus as intense as if she were the one preparing to cast the spell. "You need to start by understanding that heat, like moisture, is something that's present in the air all around us. All you have to do is ask the spirits to gather it up and push it to do its usual thing in one particular place. That's it. It's simpler than you would think." Standing 4 feet to her right and slightly in front of her, and closer to the potato, Stephanie audibly drew in a deep, sharp breath and raised her hands. Kera watched as her friend performed the required gestures with her fingers and listened carefully as she spoke the incantation that would bring the spell into existence. All of that stuff was fine. She was doing it right and without any problems. The difficult part was what was taking place in Stephanie's mind. And despite her own status as an increasingly advanced witch or thaumaturge or whatever term one chose to use in reference to those who could perform magic, Kera couldn't read anyone else's thoughts yet. She could feel their moods, though, and Stephanie was nervous, excessively so. "Remember," Kera added, "that nothing near the potato will really be damaged by flames, and we can put it out easily if we have to." As Steph refocused, Kera saw the air around the vegetable began to waver and shimmer. The warmth was gathering. The idea was to create a kind of portable magical oven, a consistent concentration of heat that could sustain itself over an extended period of time. The left half of the potato exploded in a shower of burning sparks, while the right half drooped in midair, slowly beginning to steam as if microwaved. "Okay, cut," Kera said. Stephanie fell into a relaxed posture, closing her eyes, exhaling and shaking her head. The potato, or what was left of it, dropped to the floor with a moist thud and rolled a foot or 2 aside. The air around it smelled as though someone had cut open a raw spud and dumped a tray full of burnt tater tots next to it. Twisting a braid around her finger, Stephanie muttered, "Sorry, I thought I had it for a minute there finally." Kera rubbed her temples. "I did too. And, you sort of did. Like, say, if we had combined the 2 halves of what you did and spread it equally across the entire potato, it would have been roasted quite nicely." "Ha ha," Steph returned, her eyes rolling back in her head. "I don't know. Something about it doesn't make sense to me. I get to a certain point, then I panic, like the way you drop something hot suddenly when it's about to burn you, even though you knew it was hot to begin with." "Understandable," Kera assured her. "Everyone has different strengths and weaknesses, stuff they're better or worse at. I suppose you're not destined to be a great, pyromancer or whatever, even if you seem unusually talented at other things. Still, let's try 2 more potatoes. After that, regardless of how well it goes, I think we both need a break. And food. Stephanie didn't hesitate to agree. Performing magic took a lot of energy. Both of them, since they had begun casting, had their appetites and metabolisms increased 3- or 4-fold, and they ate vastly more while slowly losing weight. They fished 2 more spuds out of the bag, and once again, Kera levitated one in the center of the floor, while Steph attempted to roast it to perfection. Again, it seemed like she was about to succeed, only for a sudden rush of flame to engulf the potato, juggling it in the air, while pulses of heat flared up and down and up and down. Kera allowed the ravaged vegetable to fall, then let out a long, rattling sigh. Until now, she had been trying to deal with her friend's difficulties with a mixture of warmth and snark, attempting to be funny to keep her spirits up and pass the repeated failures off as no big deal. But at this point, she was burnt out. There was nothing much left for her to say. Stephanie simply couldn't do fire spells. They required a point of view that was too much at odds with her temperament and overall skills, which tended toward water. Stephanie looked equally tired, not to mention sheepish. "Sorry," she apologized. "I can't seem to get the hang of it. Other things haven't given me this much trouble. Don't know why." Wouldn't it make sense, though, Kera pondered, if a person who could understand one element well could also understand its diametric opposite? Like they're complementary in a way. Yin and yang, something like that. Which gave her an idea. "Okay, one last try, and I promised that we'd take a break afterward, so let that inspire you or something. Think of it this way. You're good with water, right? Water and fire are opposites, but in a way, they're very similar. They both go wherever they can, even if fire goes up and water usually goes down. But both are relentless flowing forces. Think of the heat as being like a body of water, shifting around something, gradually wearing it away from the outside." Stephanie blinked, and her eyes went distant as she considered it. "I hadn't thought of it that way. It's worth a try. Here goes, then." Both watched as the air around the final potato began to shimmer. To Kira's mild surprise and growing excitement, catastrophe didn't strike. Instead, the spud began to smoke and smolder in a measured, consistent fashion. She glanced at Stephanie. The other woman was clearly putting a great deal of effort into the spell and would not be able to sustain it for long. Also, she was over-roasting it somewhat, but she was doing leagues better than she had mere minutes ago. "I can't," Stephanie grunted. "That's as much as I can do." The heat vanished, and the potato hung smoking in air that rapidly returned to room temperature. Kera floated it over to the counter. "Well, I'm impressed. That was a hell of an improvement, Steph. This one might be edible, even. If it is, I'll split it with you for lunch." Her friend burst out laughing. "I have no idea how I did it. Well, your little metaphor helped, honestly, but it was like I just had a breakthrough. I think I get it now, more or less." When Kera cut the potato in half lengthwise, she found it to be crusty and overcooked on the outside, and still hard and raw on the inside. But it was in good enough shape that she simply carved off the outer layer and tossed the rest into the microwave. "Don't worry," she pointed out. "I'm making a lot more food than that. But I figure it will be the dish of honor in addition to the other stuff." They ended up having an entire pot of fettuccine with Alfredo sauce and leftover chicken, 4 burritos, a chef's salad with plenty of dressing, a couple of donuts, and, of course, a small helping each of potato with butter and Parmesan. While devouring their massive lunch, it occurred to Kera that she was not as hungry as she had been lately. Performing spells, particularly basic ones like minor object levitation, did not tax her as much as it used to. She knew the reason why, of course. Pavla's lessons. She winced. Thinking of Pavla still hurt in ways she didn't entirely understand. In the realm of what she did understand, she knew it was iffy at best to take any magical advice from someone who'd been out to hurt her. It was just that Pavla had been an extremely good teacher, as well as, in some ways, a good friend. As if on cue, Stephanie asked, Where did you get the idea for that? The thing about comparing fire to water so it would make more sense to me." Kera frowned and hung her head. "Pavla," she stated, speaking the name quickly and returning to her food without further comment. "Oh, right." Stephanie knew her friend well enough not to press her on the subject. The memory was still raw for both of them. Pavla, who had seemed like such a nice person, had tried to capture or kill them. It was miraculous that they had survived. Then again, the official definition of thaumaturgy was the working of miracles. They reached the end of their meal, with Kera not quite able to finish her half of the repast. She let Steph have it instead. She had been working harder anyway. "So," Stephanie proposed as she took their dishes to the sink. "Want to train some more? Honestly, it's pretty fun. Whether I screw up or not, I get a rush out of it." Kera had secretly been hoping they were done for the day. Still, she tried to supervise while her friend went through the motions of several other enchantments: cloaking, telekinesis, throwing her voice around corners, all of which she found somewhat easier than fire spells. That was good. It meant that Kera didn't have to be as involved and could drift off into the gloomy clouds within her own head. Soon enough, Stephanie noticed. "Kera, I can tell you're getting tired. Or something's on your mind. Are you okay, girl?" Kera wasn't sure how to respond. There was a whole bevy of potential answers to the question, some more truthful than others. After an awkward pause of 20 or 30 seconds, she gave up trying to overthink it. "I don't know. I suppose I'm not entirely okay. Could be worse, but still. I can't stop thinking about Pavla and everything that happened with her." Stephanie crossed her arms over her chest and gave the other woman a concerned look. "You want to talk about it? You could say we both have reasons to get all that off our chest." It was true. In the duel that had erupted in the desolate alley, Kera probably would have succumbed without Stephanie's help. "No," she sighed. "I'm sorry. It's stupid to bring it up and then say I'd rather not discuss it, but my feelings are still too mixed up. Like it's a big, jumbled mess in my brain. How much I wanted Pavla to be who she said she was, a true friend and a good teacher. She betrayed me, but then she let us go. It's so confusing." Stephanie walked over and hugged her, and they spent a moment leaning against each other. "I know," said Steph. "Believe me, I still don't know what to make of it all." "Yeah," Kera agreed. "And we got out of it alive, but not because I'm awesome. It wasn't a real victory. It was a freebie. Sorry. You helped a lot, and I'm not trying to disparage your, contribution. You know what I mean. We barely squeaked by, and Pavla could have finished us off if she wanted to. What happens next time? If she and I meet again, I have to be ready for her." They separated, both with somber, serious faces and reserved demeanors. In one another's presence, they were comfortable, but the dark cloud of external events hung heavily overhead. Stephanie replied, "I understand, but you might never see her again. Still, it's good to be prepared. I gotta head home." "Right," Kera murmured. "I need a shower, and I have to do the dishes. I'll see you later tonight at work, though, right?" "Yep, I'm on till closing time." She was a waitress at the cocktail bar and grill in Little Tokyo known as the Mermaid. Kera was a bartender. Kera walked her friend to the door. "Take care. Oh, how's your sister doing? With, you know." "Oh," Steph laughed. "Regina's still dating that Ted guy as far as I know. She said he's funny, which is," she coughed, "accurate. As long as she's happy, I'm happy." Kera chuckled. "Yeah, I get it. Bye." Her friend walked out and she closed the door behind her. Slumping against the wall, she remembered something else. Chris. Ted was his best friend. And right now, Kera had enough on her plate that, as much as she liked Chris, she wasn't sure she could deal with anything extra. James Lovecraft shared the rearmost seat of the limousine with Azuto, their guest. James' partner, Mother LeBlanc, sat on the seat across from them. None of them had spoken for perhaps half an hour. All was well enough between them, but they were tired from the long journey. The flight to New York City from Geneva had taken longer enough. Since the layover to fly to Albany would have been about the same amount of time, they had instead opted to drive to James's mansion upstate. Azuto looked out the window. Beautiful country.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?